Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Bezos, and today we'll be talking about how to make
Hey,
me
hey, shoot,
hey,
shoot,
who do you
get
think
out.
you are?
Shoot, bad Jeff,
My lawyers
bad
will know
Jeff.
about this. We're not going to be exploiting anyone today. Sorry about that. I think he's just used to these money-making videos being recycled leftovers that don't work the moment they get uploaded onto YouTube. Like seriously, I just saw a channel the other day that had 7 videos uploaded over the past week, and 3 of them were "This is the best way to make money in New World." And all the comments in the comment section were just people upset that he destroyed their money making method. So instead, with this video, I want to point you in the right direction and give you an idea on how you should think and what you can do to consistently make good money in MMOs in general. But for those that don't really care about that, I have the video structured into chapters, and I will be dropping a little secret method that I have been using to make some extra cash at the end of the video. So if you don't want to learn how to find money making opportunities yourself, you can skip ahead and check that part of the video. With all that being said, we probably need a little change of scenery, so let's get going. Alright, so I would say there are 3 things that you need to understand to be able to consistently make money in MMOs. The first and potentially biggest point is game knowledge. And I know, I hear you saying, well, it's Strife. If I know what has value, I can make money. And while that's true, you can deliberately go looking for the information that will benefit you. For example, the first time I logged into New World, I went straight to a smelter because I heard that New World's endgame has a huge crafting component. At the smelter, I noticed that iron ore made iron ingots, that steel was made out of iron ingots, that star metal ingots were made out of steel, and orichalcum was made out of star metal. To confirm what I already thought was the case, I went to the woodcutting table. And here, I observed the same thing. Every single tier of material requires the prior tier to be crafted. The conclusion that you can come to out of this is that tier 1 materials will always be valuable and are the bottleneck of the game's crafting system. This means that if you decided that you would never ever want to craft or refine materials, you could sell all of your tier 1 materials and have a very consistent stream of income. As long as people are crafting, tier 1 materials hold value. Even though being a gathering bot would eventually get tiring and you're basically supplying the Jeff Bezos of the game with materials, at least you get to schedule your own bathroom breaks. Did someone say piss bottles?
Go away, Jeff. While I continued to play the game, I got to the main story quest that requires you to gather 3 Rivercrest stems, and realized that you require 30 gathering to gather them yourself. Now, even though 30 gathering is not a huge thing to get, I realized that at a main story quest at such a low level, there will be people that will have not gathered anything yet, but will want to progress their main story, and therefore will buy the stems off the auction house. I went to check, and lo and behold, the stems were selling for 100 gold each. So to give more examples, we can go back to looking at our refinement benches. After scrolling down to the endgame materials, I noticed a little hourglass next to them. At first I thought this meant that the materials have an expiration date after being crafted, but after hitting up a quick Google search, I saw that this hourglass refers to a daily cap on how many of these materials you can craft. This has huge implications for later on, and it directly brings us into our second point, which is understanding supply and demand. You see, with these daily capped materials, the ones crafting endgame gear are depending on others to supply them with these materials. This means that if you wanted to, you could solely focus on getting one of your refinement classes up to 200, and then craft the daily materials and sell them on the auction house. Since there will be limited amount of players that have their refinement classes leveled to this stage, but the hardcore players want to craft their endgame gear ahead of everyone else, these materials will be bought out pretty quickly and at very high prices. We can use the concept to try and figure out what items are worth gathering. The relation between supply and demand is very easy to summarize. If an item supply is low, but the demand is high, then the value of the item is high. If the supply is normal and the demand is normal, then the item holds moderate value. If the item supply is high, but the demand is low, then the item has low value. What items you gather very much depend on your individual schedule and ability to play the game. If you have a tight schedule and can't play the game a lot, then there's no reason for you to chase after very low drop chance items, while you could be making more consistent money gathering tier 1 materials, for example. If you have a lot of time on your hands, you can go out of your way to gather things that other people can't, and satiate the demand of the item on your own, making a lot of money in the progress. While I know that none of this actually tells you explicitly what to go gather, I would point you in the direction of going to a site such as nwdb.info and checking what materials are needed to craft endgame recipes. These recipes can be armor, 40 stat point foods, elixirs, potions, etc. You can then check the ingredient list and determine which ingredients are hard to obtain, and if possible, gather and stockpile them for when more players reach endgame and require these materials. So far, we've only really talked about gathering materials for others, since I believe crafting to be a way bigger time commitment that will very rarely be profitable for a more casual player. However, if you still intend to craft, then our third point is something that many people tend to disregard, and that is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost describes the loss of benefit of an option that you didn't choose. To simplify this and apply it to making money in MMOs, I would describe it as efficiently using both your time and your current money to create better opportunities for yourself. A very common example of this is when players want to craft items for profit and decide to go gather materials themselves because they believe to be making more profit that way. If you're selling a pickaxe for 600 gold and the materials to craft it cost you 300 gold, you net a 300 gold profit. Now if you were to go gather those materials yourself and then sell your crafted item, you're still only netting a 300 gold profit, because if you were to sell the materials that you gathered, they are still worth the amount that you would have paid for them, since you are paying other people for the time it took them to gather said items. Therefore, you have to ask yourself if the time you spent gathering the materials yourself was worth the money you saved from not buying the materials. Oftentimes, the longer you wait to sell your crafts, the less they are worth, so it can be beneficial to buy materials instead and get your item onto the market faster. If you want to check if the outpost that you are at is the cheapest option for the items you are buying, you can use this drop-down menu on the top right of the auction house to check all trading posts at once. And that's about everything I wanted to cover in this video. You could go way more in depth, but I feel like it's better to keep it simple and give some pointers in the right direction instead of just telling you guys to go hit up this crazy spot that only works if a handful of people know about it. And no, I didn't forget, so here's my little secret. The reason I don't mind talking about it is because it's already starting to fizzle out on some servers, and the more people reach the endgame, the less profitable it will be. So here it is. These 4 items exist, and there's this bad boy that you can buy from your faction reward shop. One of these items is worth way less than the others, and one of them is worth way more than the other 3. Do whatever you want with that information, and don't blow your load and flood the market with too many items at once. If you liked the video, make sure to give my other videos a watch, and if there are any questions or you would like to suggest the topic of the next video, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and if you enjoy my content, leave a like for the algorithm and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, until next time, peace.